Welcome students. In this video, we are gonna start testing out our robot and we're gonna do our own codes for the swerve bots. We're gonna do that using the VEX V5 code. So step number one in this process is gonna be making sure that you've got the VEX V5 code. We're gonna go ahead and double click to open this up then. And when you get in here, if it says updates, you can try running them. I know this update's not going to work at my computer because I'm at home and off the school network, so I'm just going to dismiss it. Right. And the very first thing I want to talk about when we get in here isn't how to code our robot. The very first thing I want to talk about when we get in here is how to manage our files so that we're not losing things. So we're going to go to File, we're going to go to Save. And what I'd like you to do is save this to your Google Drive. So I've got my Google Drive mapped so it shows up on my PC. If you're not sure how to do that, you can come down here where it says type here to search, type the word drive in, and then click on the Google Drive link. It should be pretty self-explanatory. If it's not, you can come find me. All right, I'd be glad to walk you through that. All right, and then once we've found our Google Drive, we're going to go into My Drive. You can see I've got tons of folders in here. I'm going to right click to bring up these options. I'm going to click on New, and then I'm going to click on New Folder. All right, and I'm going to call this new folder my robotics folder. All right, oh, and I've already made a robotics folder, so I'm going to say no. Maybe I'll call that my robotics folder. I'm going to rename this one. I'm going to call it my robotics folder with the year. How about that? All right, there we go. So 24, 25. And then I want to save in my robotics folder. So I'm going to double click and I'm going to call this my first project. So project number one. And I want to give them descriptive names so that I can find them as I'm navigating through here. Okay. And for our first project, we're just going to make the robot run forward and backwards today. Okay. So in order to make the robot run forward and backwards, we need to tell it what ports we've got our motors plugged into. So I'm going to come over to this icon here. This actually looks kind of like a motor if you use your imagination, and I'm going to click on it. It's going to allow me to add a device. Okay, now I can add controllers, I can add motor groups, I can add individual motors, I can add optics, I can add all sorts of sensors. We're going to add a drivetrain to this today because we've got two motors set up to form a drivetrain on our robot. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and click on drivetrain, and then it's asking me where is the left motor plugged into. So as you look at your swerve bot, those line sensors are on the front, so turn it so it's looking towards you, so you're looking at the front. Okay, pick the motor on the left, and then follow the black cable back to the swerve bot's brain, and which port is it plugged into. So on my robot, it's plugged into port 10. Yours might be plugged into a different port. Okay, now it's asking me about the right motor. Right, so again, as you're looking at the front of the bot, that's the part of the bot with the line sensors. Follow that motor on the right back to the brain. What port is it plugged into? On mine, it's 20. Right? Yours, again, may be a little bit different. Right? Now it's asking me to select a device. Okay, we are just using our basic motors on here, so they don't have sensors or GPSs or any of that stuff. So we're just going to say done. Right. And now you'll notice it says drivetrain over here. The other change you may have noticed is under the drivetrain button, this blue area in our toolbox. We've got some more options showing up here in our codes and our snippets. Right. The other device we're going to need when we're first learning our codes is we're going to need to install the two bumper switches. Right. Those are those press buttons that are located on the front side of your bot. They are set up as 3 wired devices. Right? So we're going to come in here and we're going to pick bumper. All right. Now I want you to look again at the front of your bot. That's the side with the 3 line sensors facing you, and look at the bumper on the left. Okay. And so whichever side you pick for left motor, follow that bumper back. And which port is it plugged into right now? If it's not plugged into a port, You may need to unplug something so that you can plug that in. Okay, in my case, it's plugged into A. Right, so when I click on port A, you'll notice it names it bumper A up here. Okay, that's confusing to me. I'm going to call that one bumper L. Right, and L stands for left. All right, so that's my left bumper. If you wanted to spell out left, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want to call that bumper over there Roger, if you can keep track of what you're calling it, you are more than welcome to. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click done, and then I'm going to repeat that same process. I'll add a 3-wire device, a bumper. This one's in port B, and this one is on my right side. So I'm going to call it bumper R. Right, again, you can call it whatever you'd like, just as long as you can keep track of it. All right, and with those devices there added, we're good to go. So I'm going to collapse this menu. I'm going to go into File, and I'm going to click the Save button again so that all those changes I've made are updated. All right, and then we're going to write a real simple code to test this thing out. Right, so over here, I've got my opening line. All of our codes are going to start off with this. We're going to say when started. Okay. Then we're going to come down to, the controls. I always get these two orange buttons confused. And I'm going to actually tell it when started to wait a period of time before it does anything. So I'm dragging wait over. You'll notice here where it says 1 second, it's in a white circle, so I can click on that. I'm going to change it to 3 seconds, right? I want you to do the same thing. That way, when you flash the code onto your bot and you hit play, it's not going to start driving while you've still got it up on the table or plugged into your computer, right? Hopefully, you'll hit play, and then that'll give you 3 seconds to get it down on the floor, unplugged, if you forget things with this first code here, right? So when the bot starts, it's going to go to this first line. It's going to wait 3 seconds, and then we want our robot to drive forward. Okay, now remember, the robot processes things at a very high rate of speed, faster than we can process, faster than we can read things. So we need to tell it how long we want it to drive forward for, because if we go on to another command down here right away, it's going to skip over that drive forward command and go right to the next line. Okay. So again, I'm going to go to controls. I'm going to drag the wait command over here. Right, and you can decide how long you want that to drive forward for. Right. I'm going to set mine for 5 seconds. Okay, so I want it to drive forward for 5 seconds. Once that 5 seconds is over, I'm going to scroll back up. This time I want my bot to stop driving, so I'm going to drag this over. And I'm going to come back down to the wait command, and I want it to stop driving, and I'm going to have it wait for 0.5 seconds. Right? That'll just give me enough time to observe that it stopped driving, and then I want it to drive in reverse for 5 seconds. So I'm going to come back up to this command. I'm going to grab the drive, right? And you maybe noticed this already. There's a little drop down here. Okay, I can tell it to drive forward or reverse when it gets to this line of code. And then I need to give it a set amount of time that I want it to drive forward for. Right, so I'm going to drag this line over, wait, and I'm going to change my time period again to 5 seconds. Right. And I should point out again, this is 0.5 here. This is 5 whole seconds. So it's going to drive backwards for 5 whole seconds. And then I want it to stop driving at the end of that 5 seconds. Right. So this is our first code here. This is going to allow us to test that our bot is working correctly as far as the motors go. If we have issues, if it drives backwards instead of forwards, we may have to switch our right and left motors around. If it doesn't do anything, we might have to charge batteries. We may have to plug in motors. But this is going to give us something that we can troubleshoot with. Okay? Now, instead of me showing you how to get this off of the computer onto your bot, I want you to watch some other tutorials. So I just click the tutorial button. I'll go back and point that out again. There's the tutorial button. Right. And if I scroll down on this screen, here is the video that shows you how to download and run a program. So you're going to watch this video here, download and run a program. That'll walk you through getting the code onto your bot. All right, the last thing I want to stress before I end the video here is we've got a code, and we're actually going to reuse this code a couple of times in class. So let's go to File, click Save one last time before we're done. When you get this code working, show it to your instructor. They'll check you off in the grade book that you've got a running operational bot, and then we can start coding some of those buttons.